Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. At UFC 292, Sean O'Malley defeated Aljamain Sterling to become the new undisputed bantamweight champion. And a main topic of discussion since he won that fight at UFC 292 has been what's next for Sean O'Malley. Who will he attempt to make his first title defense against? And I feel like with that has come a lot of discussion about Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. And I feel like the MMA community as a whole, the MMA media for lack of doing their jobs, and also now Dana White has been vastly misrepresenting the Merab Dvalishvili and Aljamain Sterling situation. And Dana White made some comments about Merab Dvalishvili at his post-fight presser for Dana White's Contender Series. We're going to take a look at that clip later in the video, as well as some clips from Merab Dvalishvili post-UFC 292, which I feel like have been kind of taken out of context. But I feel like Dana White is using this false narrative to protect Sean O'Malley from Merab Dvalishvili. I think Dana White in no way, shape, or form wants Sean O'Malley to make his first title defense against Merab. Now, to add context to this entire situation, because there has been false narratives surrounding the Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili friendship literally for the last 2 years. I want to take a look at Aljamain Sterling's title reign, and then we're going to take a look at Merab Dvalishvili's recent fight history. So you look at Aljamain Sterling, he won the title at UFC 259 back in March of 2021. We all know how he won the fight. He was losing the fight against Petr Yan. Petr Yan throws an illegal knee. Aljamain Sterling can't continue. Whatever you want to think about that, fair enough. He can't continue. He is crowned the new bantamweight champion based on a disqualification, which just begins a title reign of fans not liking Aljamain Sterling. And I really truly believe, even though it's never been said out loud, I think the UFC brass, including Dana White, never liked Aljamain Sterling for this. And even myself held it against Aljamain Sterling for a long time. Now, he fights Petr Yan in a rematch at UFC 273 in April of 2022. He defeats Petr Yan via split decision. This was a controversial decision. You had Aljamain Sterling, who clearly won round 2 and round 3. You had Petr Yan, who clearly won round 4 and round 5. And then you had round 1, where it was rather uneventful. So this fight truly could have went either way. Anyway, after that fight, Aljamain Sterling defends against TJ Dillashaw, former champion, and this is at UFC 280, which on this very same card, you have Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan, which is a very important detail to this entire story. He defeats TJ Dillashaw, and in his next fight at UFC 288, which was earlier this year, April of this year, actually May of this year, he defeats Henry Cejudo via split decision. Now, after that, he goes on UFC 292. He loses his belt. We'll talk about that more in a second. But his entire title reign, he beats Henry Cejudo split decision. He beats TJ Dillashaw dominantly, but TJ Dillashaw went in with an injury, beats Petr Yan split decision, and of course beats Petr Yan via DQ. Now, throughout this entire title reign, Merab Dvalishvili was making his way up the bantamweight ranks. Now, if you go back and you look at Merab's career, basically since 2021, in May of 2021, he defeated Cody Stamann via unanimous decision. And at this point in time, I believe Merab was hanging around the top 15. He was somewhere in between 10 and 15. His next fight was at UFC 266 in September of 2021. He beats Marlon Moraes. He TKOs him. And I think at this point, he's in the top 10 of the division. Now, his next fight was against Jose Aldo at UFC 278, August of 2022. He defeats Jose Aldo via unanimous decision. He's starting to get up to those ranks, and he's starting to get close. Now, while this is all building, a lot of people are asking, Merab, you're making your way up the bantamweight ranks. Are you willing to fight Aljamain Sterling? Are you willing to challenge one of your best friends for the title? They are best friends and training partners. And Merab has said, no, I don't want to fight Aljamain Sterling. I'm not fighting him even for the belt. I'll wait for him to vacate the belt. I'll wait for him to move up. But he's not really in the position to fight for the belt yet. So after he defeats Jose Aldo, he then moves, I believe, to the top 3 of the division, okay? And his next fight was against former champion Petr Yan in March of this year. And after he beats Petr Yan in March of this year, he officially becomes the #1 contender, because before then, Sean O'Malley had the win over Petr Yan, and he was sitting at the #1 contender spot But in March of 2023, that's a very key detail, Petr Yan now becomes the #1 contender in the official UFC rankings. So over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of people saying Merab's holding up the division. Merab doesn't want to fight Aljamain Sterling. Now, Merab did not want to fight Aljamain Sterling at all. He's friends with him. He's training partners with him. He did not want to fight him. Not in a single instance of the last 2 years was Merab in a position to challenge for a title, regardless of who the champion was, until March of 2023. That's a very key detail. Because you look at Aljamain Sterling, you go back, you flip to his title reign. You have Aljamain Sterling, who at UFC 280 fought TJ Dillashaw. Okay, he defeats TJ Dillashaw. On that same card, Sean O'Malley defeated Petr Yan to become the #1 contender. Now, Sean O'Malley was offered the Aljamain Sterling fight at UFC 288. He turned it down. Henry Cejudo, a former bantamweight champion, decided he was returning to the organization, and the UFC gave Henry Cejudo an immediate title shot. But it was already known the winner of Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo, which took place in May of 2023, it was already known that the winner of that fight would then defend against Sean O'Malley at UFC 292, even though it was a quick turnaround. And Dana White said, we'll do an interim belt. If you're not ready, Aljamain Sterling, you have to make that quick turnaround. Otherwise, we're going to do an interim belt. So you go back to Merab's career. He beat Jose Aldo in August of 2022 to become a top 5, top 3 fighter in the bantamweight division, okay? Still not guaranteed a title shot because TJ Dillashaw was ahead of him, and then you had Sean O'Malley jump ahead of him, and then eventually in 2023, he leapfrogs above Sean O'Malley. But at that point, you already have Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo booked, and it's already a foregone conclusion that Aljamain Sterling or Henry Cejudo will fight Sean O'Malley. So at no point ever was Merab Dvalishvili the #1 contender up until March of 2023, which we already knew the next 2 title fights for the bantamweight division. So up until UFC 292, Merab was never the #1 contender just waiting for a title shot. That was non-existent. He never turned down a fight. He never turned down a title shot. All he said was to a hypothetical matchup against Aljamain Sterling, he did not want that fight. At no point was he sitting at #1. Was there no other deserving contenders who deserved it more than him? And he was like, nah, I don't want the fight. I don't want the fight. That just never existed. It never happened. He always had those guys that were above him who were clearly in line before him to fight for the title. At no point did he ever refuse to fight Aljamain Sterling. He did not want to fight him. Now, had that position arisen, he probably would have turned it down, but that never happened. He never held up the division. I keep hearing people say, Merab held up the division because he didn't want to fight his friend Aljamain Sterling. That is literally non-existent. Aljamain Sterling fought in October, he fought in May, and he fought in August. He fought 3 times in 10 months. That's holding up a division. A lot of times we see champions only fight once or twice a year. So now that we got that out of the way, because we had to dispel those, because people have been saying that for, it seems like the last year, when Merab only got into the, upper echelon of the bantamweight rankings, he did not get there until August of 2022. So it's been a year since he really got towards that top 5, let alone #1 contender. And it has only been 5 months since he became the #1 contender. And at that point in time, you already had 2 title fights lined up. Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo, Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley, where Sean O'Malley defeats Aljamain Sterling. Now, before we look at the Dana White clip, and we're also going to look at some Merab clips post UFC 292, I believe Aljamain Sterling made some massive mistakes in the lead up to UFC 292. I discussed it before UFC 292 even happened. And it was Aljamain Sterling saying, look, no matter what happens, win or lose, I am going up to 145. I'm vacating the title and I'm moving up to 145. Or I'm going to try to become double champ and I'm basically never coming back to bantamweight. And I knew this was a bad choice of words from Aljamain Sterling. Because not only did he already set the narrative, look, if I lose, I don't need an immediate rematch. He already set the narrative that I'm going up to 45 no matter what. And that was kind of, okay, now Merab can have his opportunity to fight for the belt. He's been kind of waiting in the wings, as people have been saying, but he's been, since March, when he beat Petr Yan and dominated Petr Yan, he's been kind of waiting in the wings. Okay, when is he going to get his opportunity? And it was supposed to be after UFC 292. He's going to finally get an opportunity. Well, Aljamain Sterling ends up losing the fight, and I think he made another massive mistake. I believe in the post-fight interview in the cage, he should have tried to get Merab the title shot. I believe he should have said, look, I lost, I got caught, I'm going to take some time off, but I want my teammate and friend Merab Dvalishvili to avenge me. We've seen Uriah Faber do similar things in post-fight interviews. He did it for Cody Garbrandt. He did it for TJ Dillashaw. And we've seen those pushes post-UFC pay-per-view when a lot of people are watching and a lot of people want to set up that next fight. We've seen it work. So if Aljo would have, in his post-fight interview, said, look, I may have lost, he may have gotten me, I'm going to take some time off, but I want my training partner Merab to come back and avenge me. He could have really swayed public opinion and people would have been like, oh, we want Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. And he did not do that. And he also, in the lead up, was saying, I'm going to 45 no matter what. Now he loses and he starts to backtrack. And it's like, well, what about Merab? If you want to fight for the title again, what about Merab? That's kind of been the whole conversation since then. Now, Dana White was asked a question at the Dana White's Contender Series post-fight presser. And the way the question was phrased, we'll talk about that after you guys listen to the clip. But the response from Dana White, it just really makes no sense when you really add context to it. Let's take a look at the clip from Dana White, and then we'll come back and react to it.
And you touched on a little bit about maybe who's next for O'Malley. And I'm just wondering, what is the likelihood that it would be Merab? I know that there's some controversy of him not wanting to fight. He wants Aljo to have the rematch. What's your idea for that?
Everybody in this room and everybody who watches this video knows how I feel about this shit. Yeah. Yeah, I hate it. Hate it. And if that's, why did you even get into this sport? If that's your mentality and the way that you think. I don't even want the title. I don't even want the championship. We're friends. We're this. We're that. This is not, you can be friends with everybody in this business. There's a lot of nice people in this business, a lot of good people. This is not about friendship. This is about finding out who the best in the world is. And if you don't want to find out who the best in the world is, this is not the place for you. You should be somewhere else. There's plenty of places to fight where they don't give a shit what you do. Doesn't work here.
So there you hear the MMA media member phrase their question in a way to say, Merab doesn't want to fight. He says he doesn't want to fight. And Dana White goes into this diatribe, essentially just shitting on Merab Dvalishvili, saying, this sport's not about friendship. This sport's about finding out who's the best. And if you don't want to find out who's the best, then you're in the wrong promotion and you need to go somewhere else. Essentially telling Merab, if you don't want to find out who's the best, you need to go to another organization. We don't want you here. There's one massive flaw with this logic from Dana White. Aljamain Sterling, who is Merab Dvalishvili's one of his good friends and training partner, he's no longer the champion. He lost it at UFC 292. So the consensus best bantamweight is Sean O'Malley. So Merab Dvalishvili has never said, I don't want to fight Sean O'Malley. That's not what he said at all. And we're going to take a look at some clips from him from interviews he's done post UFC 292 in a second. But Dana White's just sitting here. He's supposed to be a promoter. I think Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili is a massive fight. I think it would be a very compelling matchup. I think it would do well on pay-per-view. And I think it's the most interesting matchup that can be made right now. But Dana White's essentially already crapping on it. And he doesn't, and the media member doesn't give any context to the situation. She just says, oh, Merab doesn't want to fight. He wants Aljo to fight for the belt, and he doesn't want to fight otherwise. That's it. Merab just wants to sit on the sidelines and wait for a title shot, which is hilarious. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But horrible line of question from the MMA media member. And Dana White just taking every opportunity. Oh, we got a number one contender in the bantamweight division. Let me crap on him as much as possible in this post-fight presser. Now, let's take a look at a clip from Merab Dvalishvili. He did an interview with the Schmo. Now, I will link out, I'm going to discuss 3 videos. I'm going to discuss the Dana White post-fight. I'm going to discuss a Merab Dvalishvili interview with the Schmo, as well as an interview with MMA Junkie that's gotten a lot of attention. I will link those full videos down in the description if you want to go check them out for more context. But I want to take a look at what Merab had to say to the Schmo when asked about what's next for you, what are your title aspirations, and let's take a look at what Merab had to say.
If O'Malley don't want to wait, or if some reason he's gonna fight somebody else, then I'm the next guy. You know, like why there is no one else other than Aljo should fight O'Malley. You know, there is no one else. Either O'Malley should fight either Aljo or me. I don't want O'Malley to fight somebody else. If it's somebody else, that it's me.
So there you hear it straight from Merab Dvalishvili himself. If it's not going to be the Aljamain Sterling rematch for Sean O'Malley, then I am next in line. And based on the UFC rankings, right now, Aljamain Sterling's ranked number 1, Merab Dvalishvili's ranked number 2. And based on precedent, typically, Aljamain Sterling, who's been a champion, who's defended multiple times, usually the UFC gives them immediate rematches. And Aljamain Sterling's not getting an immediate rematch. I'll tell you that right now. The UFC does not like Aljamain Sterling. A lot of the MMA community does not like Aljamain Sterling. And essentially, you are giving preferential treatment if you have any type of star power. So Aljamain Sterling doesn't have any of that. So the UFC is going to be like, you know what? We don't like Aljo. We don't like his fight style. The MMA community doesn't like him. We can't promote him. We've been crapping on him for months. He's never sniffing a title shot again. But it's just crazy to me how easily this can be warped because Merab essentially said, look, if Aljo's not getting the rematch, then I am next up. So Merab wants to find out who's the best because he wants to challenge the champion who happens to be Sean O'Malley for the bantamweight title. That is what he said directly. If it's not Aljamain Sterling, then I am next. If he's going to go fight someone else, it better be me. That's essentially what Merab Dvalishvili said. And for some reason, people are acting like it's anything other than that. He's literally saying, I am next up if Aljamain Sterling, the former reigning dominant champion, is not getting an immediate rematch like we've seen in the past with other champions who have defended multiple times. That's all that Merab said. Now, we're going to take a look at another interview that Merab did where I think he kind of messed up a bit the way he spoke, and I think people it was warranted a little bit of criticism, but not really that much, because if you really listen to the full context, it's really not that bad. Let's take a look at that interview. This is from MMA Junkie, and then we'll come back and react.
Aljo come back, beat O'Malley, get his belt back, and I think he after that he may go one upper weight class, or something, and if he vacate the belt, maybe take big vacation or something, and I will fight for the belt after whoever will be next. I'm the next guy after Aljo, so good way will be give Aljo rematch, and after that I'm just gonna wait for my title fight, and I guess we will figure it out after. But I'm just gonna fight for title next. I just don't wanna even if I have to wait 1 year or more, I will just wait. I'm good.
So there you hear Merab Dvalishvili say, look, if Aljamain Sterling gets the rematch and he fights Sean O'Malley, he defeats Sean O'Malley, I will be willing to wait a year or more to get my title shot. I am essentially only fighting for the title. And a lot of people took issue with that. And I do believe there is some criticism to be had here because he started to say must. He said if Aljamain Sterling wins against Sean O'Malley, he must move up or must vacate. But then he changed it to he may move up or he may take a vacation and vacate. I believe, and this is a personal issue between Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili, if Aljo was to get the rematch against Sean O'Malley and he was to win, there's potential for a trilogy there, first off. But either way, there should be a deal in place between Aljo and Merab, since they're such good friends, where if you win that title, you either go up or you vacate and go up. One or the other. Or you just vacate and you just decide to take a vacation for a while. Because now, I've been waiting since March of 2023. I've said before, Merab really hasn't been waiting around. People act like Merab has been waiting for years for a title shot that's never going to come. Merab has been the #1 contender since March. It's only been a few months. It's been less than half a year since Merab has been #1 contender. But if Aljo gets the rematch, it won't be till early 2024. If he wins that fight, it's now Merab's time. Aljo has to relinquish and move up or just relinquish outright. So I do understand the criticism there. But a lot of people took issue with the fact that Merab said, I'll wait a year or more for my title shot. And I do understand how that could rub you the wrong way. I hate people just sitting out and say, I'm sitting out waiting for my title shot. I don't like it at all. But take into account, Merab Dvalishvili's on a long win streak. He's beat amazing fighters in his last 2 fights. He dominated Petr Yan. Nobody's ever dominated Yan like that. And then before that, he beat Jose Aldo, who was still looking very, very good. I know he retired since, but was looking very, very good at bantamweight. Merab has earned his title shot. And for people criticizing him for saying, look, I'll wait a year for my title shot. And I hate to keep beating a dead horse. Stipe Miocic sitting out for 2.5 years after getting brutally KO'd, getting a title shot against John Jones. You have Colby Covington sitting out for over a year and a half to get a title shot against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards sat out for a while, and a lot of it wasn't his fault, but sat out for a decent portion of time, got a title fight with Kamaru Usman. And also, Sean O'Malley waited 10 months. He sat out on the sidelines waiting 10 months for the title fight against Aljamain Sterling. So how is it even remotely crazy that Merab Dvalishvili said, I'll sit out a year, I'll wait for my title shot? Because he fought 5 months ago. He fought in March. So I don't think it's that crazy that he's willing to say, I'll sit out and wait for my title shot. Because essentially what he's saying is, I'm not going to fight any contenders in the meantime. And I don't like that. But he is #1 contender. He has earned his title shot. He is on a long winning streak. And if they do decide to give Aljamain Sterling the rematch, which has been shown via precedent, we've seen champions who have long reigns typically get immediate rematches when they lose. If Aljo was to get the title fight, that's the UFC's decision. And if Merab's saying, look, if Aljo is getting the title fight, I'm going to wait. Merab doesn't make these decisions. Merab's not deciding whether or not Aljamain Sterling gets the rematch or not. He's saying, if he does, I will sit out and wait for my opportunity to get a title fight. That is all he's saying. And people took this and ran with it like, oh, well, he's going to sit out for 3 years and let Aljo recapture the belt against Sean O'Malley and then defend the belt some more, and he's never going up. And that's essentially what people made it out to be. The MMA media themselves made it out to be like that. And it was just kind of a throwaway comment like, I'm not fighting contenders. That's what he meant. That's what he meant. He's like, I am not fighting contenders in the meantime. I have earned my title shot. And there's criticism to be had about that. I'm not a big fan of that. But he has earned his title shot. And you look at plenty of other guys who haven't even earned a title shot, waiting out for literally over a year, some even 2 years, and still getting their title shot. So I don't have this massive issue with Merab saying, oh, wait. And people are like, oh, Merab doesn't want to fight his friend. First off, Aljo is not the current champion. I've already talked about that. But they say, oh, he doesn't want to fight his friend. If they are very good friends, if they are best friends and training partners, I don't blame them for not wanting to fight each other. And people keep criticizing him for it. If Merab was willing to fight Aljamain Sterling and he was calling out Aljamain Sterling nonstop, you know what those same people from the MMA community would call him? They would say, Merab Dvalishvili's a snake. He's a snake. He's turning on his boy Aljamain Sterling. He's not a good friend. There would be the same group of people criticizing him for that. He is saying he wants to fight Sean O'Malley for the title next. If Aljamain Sterling gets the next shot, he'll be happy for his friend and he will wait for his opportunity to fight for the belt. And I just think a lot of this criticism is based on this false narrative that's being built by the MMA community, that's now being co-signed by Dana White because he doesn't want Merab Dvalishvili to fight Sean O'Malley, at least not in his first title defense, because the UFC and Dana White look at Sean O'Malley as their new cash cow. And guess what? You look at the 3 contenders that are potential options for Sean O'Malley's first title defense. You see Merab Dvalishvili, you see Corey Sandhagen, and you see Marlon Chito Vera. Guess what is the most winnable matchup for Sean O'Malley? It is Marlon Chito Vera. Even though he's only on a 1-fight winning streak, there's the history there. There is the history there. Marlon Chito Vera has a win over Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley was stretchered out of the cage with no serious injuries. And Sean O'Malley wants that win back. But on top of that, you look at Merab, you look at Sandhagen, you look at Vera. What is the most likely probability that Sean O'Malley wins? It's definitely the Vera fight. And I think the UFC, as much as possible, want to protect Sean O'Malley. They want to keep him as a champion for as long as possible. That's why they let him sit out 10 months and wait for a title shot. They offered him at UFC 288, but Sean O'Malley said, no, I want to work on my grappling more. Essentially, he sat out for 10 months waiting on the fight for Aljamain Sterling. The UFC forced Aljamain Sterling to have a quick turnaround because they wanted to give Sean O'Malley the best opportunity to become their new bantamweight champion. You think they want to risk that against the machine Merab Dvalishvili, who has unbelievable cardio, unbelievable grappling, and is super durable? And I know people are going to say I'm hating on Sean O'Malley. I may even pick Sean O'Malley to beat Merab. I may even pick Sean O'Malley to beat Corey Sandhagen. I know Corey Sandhagen's kind of off the table because he's injured till early next year. So if they want a fight to happen in December, then it has to be Merab or Marlon Chito Vera. And Merab said he can fight in December. Marlon Chito Vera can fight in December. And we ultimately don't know what's going to inevitably happen, but I really truly believe Dana White, no way, shape, or form, wants Sean O'Malley to attempt to make his first title defense against Merab Dvalishvili because they want to protect Sean O'Malley because he is their new cash cow. He plans on building Sean O'Malley to potential stardom like Conor McGregor. He's not there yet, but they are attempting to build him into that big star. The UFC wants these massive stars. Of course, it's great for business. They don't want to risk him losing his title in his first title defense. So now they're going to use this false narrative. Oh, Merab doesn't want to fight for the belt. Merab, and I've shown you the clips, Merab has said multiple times he wants to fight Sean O'Malley for the UFC bantamweight title. That is a flat-out lie. And acting as if he turned down multiple title shots against Aljamain Sterling is another flat-out lie. All those title fights for Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw, Henry Cejudo, and then Sean O'Malley were all lined up long before Merab Dvalishvili was the #1 contender in the bantamweight division. And I just hate to see fans continue to regurgitate this narrative because it's just not true. And I really do believe it all comes down to fans disliking Merab, but also the MMA media not doing their research and not asking decent follow-up questions. Why didn't that media member say to Dana, well, Merab says he wants to fight Sean O'Malley. He wants to find out who's the best. You just said if you're not in this sport to find out who's the best, then why are you here? He wants to find out who's the best. So are you willing to make that fight? But instead, Dana White, instead of being a promoter and trying to lift these guys up like he's doing for Sean O'Malley, he just craps on Merab Dvalishvili because he's friends with the guy who's not even the champion, who he never even was offered a fight against. I just hate this entire narrative. And when you really add context to it, it makes absolutely no sense. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.